This is Brandon Hill, and today I'm going to show you how to layer sounds in Maschine using the zone section of the sampler. You could use it to layer things such as claps, so you could go from something like this to something like this. You could also use zone to make unique pad sounds of your own. So let's get into it. Sometimes you have one-shots in your library, maybe it's a kick or a clap or a hi-hat or a pad sound, and you feel that it's lacking something. By itself, it might sound flat or boring, but if it was paired with something else, it could sound a lot better. And that's what I did with this clap here. This was before, or this is the original one-shot, which could be useful in some cases. That might be good enough for you. Or you could add a little bit more to it, which is what I did here. There are two common ways to layer sounds. So if I come here and I just load up a kit real quick. So I have this here. We have this snare. Or let's make it more dramatic. So we have this snare and this closed hi-hat, and a simple way to layer this is to use a link group. So I could set this to link group 1, set this to link group 1. Now when I hit either of these, you'll hear that layered sound. And that could be useful in some cases. Another way to layer sounds is to simply have the MIDI pattern the same for the two sounds that you want to layer. So we would have this. These are simple solutions here, but I want to show you another method of layering that I like to use pretty often because it's a little more advanced and you have a lot more control over your samples and your layering. And that's to use the zone section of the Maschine sampler. So if I come here to clap again, I'm just going to copy this so we could keep it as reference. I'm going to paste this clap here. This is just any other clap that I load up from my browser and my one-shots, for example. So I have this here. To access the zone, you're going to go to the sampler section of the sound slot. So you could enter that by going here. Usually it'll be on this first, so you would go here and then you would go to zone. Or if I'm on the controller, I can make sure I have this selected. I'll go to sampling and then I'll go to zone. And in this area, we could map samples to this zone and create sounds with multiple samples across the MIDI keyboard. So if we look at this right here, you can see there are two samples here. There's this sample and this sample. And if we go back to this, we just have that one sample here. So you could even map samples to certain ranges on the keyboard and velocities as well, but that's a video for another time. I just want to show you how you could use the zone to create layered samples. So let's imagine I have this clap and I want to add something to it. The way you could do it is you could go to your one-shots and you could find another sample. So let me click out of here and let me just find that sample that I used before. Let's go to drums, claps, and one of the samples I used was Eldon. So I have this here and I can now drag this and watch the sound before. So I have this. I can now drag this into here. Now that's added to the zone and these samples are layered. Okay. The reason I like using zone for layering is that I have control with all of these parameters down here. And I typically do this on the controller. So there are 5 pages here. The first page works on the play range. So this is the sample that I have selected right here, which is this one. If I click to this one, you can see my sample change there. So that's how you could go back and forth to edit each individual sample. Or on the controller, I could hit previous or next, and you could see here the sample changes, and you could also see it in the software. So if I want to work on this here, all these edits will be applied to this sample. So if I just want the tail end of this, I could choose selection range. And you can hear how this changes as I completely take out the sample's waveform, essentially. So if I could start bringing it back in until I achieve a sound that I like. You could see that clap sound becomes more full. And being able to choose the play range could be good with something like a kick, for example. If you're layering kicks and on one kick, you only want the transient of that kick, but you don't want the rest of it, you could do that here. Or vice versa, if you want to keep the body of the kick, but you don't really want that transient because your other kick has a great transient already at the start, you can do that here. The second page of zone is loop, and it's not relevant for this video because we are just working on layering. This is where you could define a portion of the sample that you would like to loop if you were to hold the note down continuously. So we can disregard that for now, but I just wanted to tell you what that is. Page 3, we have some edits such as tune. So you could tune each sample. Let me do it on this one. Listen as I start to turn this tune up. You'll hear the sound change. You could tune, you could use gain, which I often do. Sometimes you'll add these layers and you want your complementary layers to be at a lower decibel just so it could complement the main sample you have. So when I turn it all down, I essentially only have that other clap in. So you can start to introduce that other clap until you find a gain level that you like. Pan is another one that I like to use. If I add 3 claps, let's do that here. Let's say I add another one here. And let me show you the other way to add. So if I am here, sampling, I'm in zone, I could add another sample by hitting add right here. And then you could browse for your one-shots and find the clap that you want. But for here, I already have it, so I'm gonna add that. So let's go back and I'm gonna pan some of these left and right. So let me pan this one to the left. If I do it dramatically, you could clearly hear that. Let's say I want to move this one to the right. So that one's all the way to the right, the other one's all the way to the left, and you could bring this in. This is a little bit exaggerated, but you could start to adjust these to get a more wider sounding clap. So you're covering up more of the stereo field. So now we've gone from this clap, which was the original single sample, to this. A lower tone, a little bit of a warmer sound, and a little bit of reverb on it as well. As we go to page 4, you have some envelope controls, so you could change the attack and you could also change the decay. So if one of your samples has a click at the start of it, you could lengthen the attack a little bit to help take care of that click. Page 5 is some mapping, and this is where you could define the ranges on this map zone right here for the different keys and velocities, and it isn't necessary for this tutorial because I'm just showing you how to layer. So that's how we could use the zone there. Now let me show you how I made this pad sound here. So let's do it from scratch. So for this, I used a pad sound, which has a lot of bass in it, and then I used a piano key as well. So let me go to sounds, and I'll just pull it up, but I did a lot of searching to find these sounds. So I'm gonna do this one. So I'll load that up. So I have this sound here, right? And it's on the keyboard. I'm gonna add a sound to that. So I'll go back to sampling, I'll hit add. Now I'm browsing for a one-shot. So you could go to one-shots, I narrowed down by piano and keys, and then I just found a sound that I thought would complement. So I did this number 5, I load that up. Now I have this layered sound. And maybe the piano key sound is a little bit too loud, so I'm gonna decrease the gain until I get something that I like. Okay, now I have a really cool sound that I could add to my beat here. And with that, I can mute these two. So we've created this clap sound. And I have this here. This is the same sound, I just had some MIDI. So let me mute this. So this is what this little loop sounded like before. So this is the main clap. And that might sound good. This is what the clap sounds like after. Before. So the clap is a lot wider and it's more of a warmer sound. And then if I come here and I unmute this, we have the pad sound. And now this is something that I could continue to work off of with. Being able to use Zone to layer sounds, a variety of sounds, becomes really useful to create sounds of your own and to create unique sounds based on the samples that you have available to you. You could also use samples that you got off of Splice, you could add them in, and you could create these sounds, rename them, and save the sound or save the kit if you create a whole kit of unique layered sounds, and you can use it in the future. So when you want to layer something quickly and without much control, you could use link groups, or you could just copy the MIDI and have two sound slots playing the same MIDI. But if you want more control and precision, that's when you could use link groups. Use it on claps, use it on kicks, use it to create pads, use it on synths, use it on anything you'd like. If you like this, please let me know in the comments. I'll continue to make these tutorials on Maschine, and I will get started on the next one. Thanks.